So by now, we've all had time to mourn Heidi Klum and Seal's failed 7-year marriage. Heidi claims it was a result of Seal's anger issues, but how does this all apply to your relationship? Marriage and family therapist Dr. Jane Greer is a GalTime.com contributor who's giving us the shrink wrap on the 7-year itch. Good morning, Dr. Greer.
Good morning. It's such a pleasure to be here with everybody.
Thanks for joining us. You know, 7 years, they seemed so happy, and a lot of people feel like if they can't make it, who can? But what can we learn from their mistakes?
Well, that's a great question because we see a happy couple like the two of them out and about all over town, romantic, affectionate, and it's really hard to come to terms with the fact that what goes on behind closed doors is not always happiness and fun. In fact, for so many people, what goes on behind closed doors is arguing, differences, clashing, conflict. And unfortunately, not only were Heidi and Seal the only two people who couldn't resolve their differences, but it goes on for so many people, and the anger gets out of control, builds and builds until the point where it just implodes and completely can destroy a relationship.
So to fix that, then, you say we need to tackle that underlying issue head on. I mean, how does somebody go about doing that?
Well, you know, it's really tricky because anger, even of itself, is so frightening that when there's an explosion, people tend to want it to be done, get over, and then they move on and avoid it, forget about it, oftentimes don't even talk about it, so it never gets reconciled. Anger is out of control, and so the most important thing to do is to bring some checks and balances and put some controls in place around it so that it's not always about everything that's calm and peaceful until that one event and two people just go heads up against each other, argue, and then forget about it and go forward as if nothing had happened.
Well, I love the one tip you had when we talked earlier about using a kind of like a suggestion box, but more for your issues. How does that work quickly?
Well, one of the things I advise a lot of couples to do is to get a box, get anything where each week they can write down the concerns, the complaints, the things that are really making them mad. And by putting it in the box, not only do you acknowledge it and make it real, which is so important, but you give each other a forum for bringing up the topic when you're both calm and collected, not in the fire and heat of an angry outburst or an argument. This way, you can really start to attempt to problem solve it, and most importantly, come to some compromises and some resolutions that let you get through the differences.
It's a great idea. You know, it's unfortunate their marriage fell apart, but I guess it helps everybody else to learn from them. So thank you, Dr. Greer. And make sure you read more of her relationship and sex advice in her column. It's on GalTime.com, and get all the advice you need. How do you spend your gal time? Fashion, food, money, love, and sex? We've got it all covered at GalTime.com. Visit us for the latest articles, pics, videos, and much more.